Hi, Dave and Kevin. This is Christopher Ingrassia from Mustang Restorations in Dundee, Illinois. I've owned my business for over 40 years. I'm 62 years old, so I have a little bit of maturity about me. And I thought what we'd do is just get past the questions that you guys have got me, and then I'll give you a tour of my shop. My son Preston's going to read these things to me, and then I'll wing it from there.
What made you decide to get into restoring cars?
What got me into restoring cars was I grew up in one of the greatest generations for Hot Wheels, Johnny Lightnings in the late 60s. I had tracks just like everybody else. And then from there it went into my dad buying a 68 Mustang brand new off the showroom floor. I was the first one as a little kid to drive home in the thing. And then from there, my dad, for whatever reason, he was an executive in New York City, decided to buy a Sunoco gas station. Now, Sunoco, if you guys remember, had the 260 gasoline with the high octane in it, so I used to see all the cool cars come in. And this would have been like the early 70s when we were getting cars like the cars I work on now coming in for repairs and gassing up. So I'm kind of like almost reliving my youth by having this business.
What's your favorite automotive accomplishment?
My favorite automotive accomplishment would have to be my Mustang limousine. If you guys have done just an increment of research on me, you'd see that I stretched a Mustang 4 feet into a limousine.
What's the toughest job you've ever done?
Toughest job I've ever done, though, would have to be where I took a full-size 87 Chevy van and took 4 feet out of the middle of it and brought it in and put the two pieces together. A lot of these things I'm talking about, we're going to go through as I give you the tour of my shop.
How many hours a week are you dedicated to restoring cars?
I'm here at least 60 hours a week. If you called and talked to my wife, she'd say I was here 100% of the week, but it's at least 60 hours a week I'm dedicated to the business.
What makes you a good automotive expert?
I'm a great automotive expert because I've been around so long. See, that's what comes with age and comes with time of just being on the same type of job all this time. I'm able to build up experience and build up this career where I've gone to auctions, where I've made set auction records and done things that other guys that haven't been in the business long haven't done.
What makes you a good fit at Kindig Design?
I can be a good fit at your business there because I do what you guys do. I'm not saying that I'm any better, but I'm tell you what, I'm pretty dang close to it. And with what we do around here, with all the customizing stuff we do around here, I'm right up there. And I'll get into that too as we do our tour.
How would you describe your personality?
My personality is a great personality. You know, I've learned when you're a businessman, you need to learn how to get along with everybody. You need to be a friend with your employee, but you also need to learn how to be the boss to the employee and be a friend to your customers. And that kind of thing peppered in there with a good sense of humor really has helped me out.
How would your coworkers or friends describe your interest in cars?
They see my passion. I love what I do. I am the luckiest man in the world. I mean, I get customers coming in here saying, wow, you got the dream job. And I think I really do. There's not a day that I don't come in here that I don't feel energized and happy with what I do and just lucky with what I ended up with as a business. You know, I started out this business in the early 80s. Actually in 1980, I sold a car I had for $1,500 and that was my first month's rent. And my wife said, well, you know, what's going to happen next month if you don't make it? And I said, well, I don't have any more cars to sell, so we're making it. And so with $1,500 and maybe about $1,000 in my bank account, I opened up this business and I just made it work through quite a few recessions, I might say, between 1980 and the current time.
Sell yourself on what makes you a car expert.
What makes me a car expert is, again, I've been around. I've been there, done that. There's hardly anything that is in this place or is out there in the world that I haven't done or seen done or I've learned about. You know, the biggest thing I've learned is do research on what you're trying to do. Don't be intimidated by it, and you can do it. Because I've always thought that if another man can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. Short of maybe physical strength, maybe I'm just not as strong as a bigger guy. From a mentality standpoint, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do what the last guy did.
Why should Dave and Kevin hire you?
You should hire me because I would add to your business or to your show in this respect here. I have a big following behind me, my Facebook page, my YouTube. I got literally thousands and thousands of subscribers and millions of views on my YouTube page. I've made my own show, my own web show called Operation Mustangs and More. Granted, it's not up to the level that you guys have, but I've gotten my feet wet on these things, and I think I've done a pretty damn good job of it. We're all set, Preston?
All set.
That's about it there. So let's move on with the tour of my place. I'll show you what else I got going on here. I'll introduce you to my son Preston, my son Christopher, and my son Cody as we move along. You know, there's life beyond Mustangs. Not everything has to revolve around Mustangs. And that's where these cars came from. This is kind of my personal collection here. Kind of a small collection compared to quite a few of my customers that have bigger things. But the one to the right, that's from Fast and Furious 4, the opening scene. That was Vin Diesel's car. That is actually one of the cars from that movie. The car above that is called a Bricklin. Those were made in the mid-'70s. That has gull wing doors that they never really perfected. I perfected it though. I perfected that whole car. That's the best of the best right there. Literally the best of the best when it comes to Bricklins. The car over to the left of it is a Taxi from the movie Taxi. When I went to buy that thing, my wife's like, you're buying a Taxi? I'm like, well, it's not just a taxi, it's the Taxi from the movie Taxi, and I thought it was kind of a cool movie, but I really thought the car was cool. It's like driving a giant Hot Wheel, that thing. This car below it is one of about 10 in this country. It's an Australian Ford that is made to look like the car from the movie Mad Max with Mel Gibson. It's right-hand drive. It's got a 4-speed top loader, so you're shifting with your left arm, you're steering with your right arm, and I tell you what, when you get out of that thing, you've used muscles that you've never used before in steering it. My wife, she's always sitting on the left side. It's like an amusement park ride for her to sit over there, and she's always like, get over, get over. So, you know, it's kind of a cool car to kind of scare her with. But over to the left over here, as any car collection should have, a General Lee. I don't necessarily jump it, but it is a 4-speed 440 car, so I do definitely have a lot of fun with it. This Trans Am right here, Bandit Trans Am, I put together for my wife. This was a silver car when I first got it, but it was a T-top car. It is the correct year, and my wife always wanted one of these Bandit Trans Ams. I put one together for her. This 77 Mustang 2 here, you know, the 77 or 74 to 78 Mustang 2s, they don't get quite the notoriety they should. This one's a pretty cool car, so that's why it's here. This red Mach 1 down here was literally abandoned in some sort of storage unit for 20 years, a rusty thing. None of the things we get here are cream puffs. And this is a good example of our end result cars here. It's got just about perfect lines on it. That's the way we like to make them around here. You know, if you're gonna make something, you might as well make it as perfect as you can. The way the hood lines up, the way the headlight extensions line up on the fenders. You know, if you're gonna make the pieces to the puzzle, you might as well make the pieces to the puzzle and make things fit. This is single stage enamel, Centauri right here. I like to shoot that. You can't obviously shoot single stage when you're doing metallics. But old school enamel, ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't let anybody tell you there's anything different. This 1976 Corvette over here, I bought a 70s type of kit that went on this thing that we're finalizing. We're gonna put some new school wheels on it, dropping a bigger drivetrain in it, and it'll be kind of like a Batmobile looking thing, I guess. What you find out when you're doing these kind of things is that you start out with one idea, and that idea might not end up to be the same thing when it's done. But if you have talent and you have vision, it ends up to be a cool thing just the same. This thing over here, behind curtain number 2, this is the van that I got to keep it under curtains because it's so dang tall, I can't keep it under a cover. I can't lift the cover up high enough, so I decided to put it under a curtain. But this is the one on a Sunday morning I decided to go in my garage and just start cutting up and taking the center section out. It took me about a month of Sundays to get it to the point where I could drive it back down to my shop. But it's an A-Team van that's made to look like the van from the show A-Team. And that's the correct year, correct color combination, but I shortened it 4 feet. Literally took roof, floor pan, sides. I took the door off of it, moved it up but took my sheet metal and moved it up probably about, I don't know, maybe 5/16 of an inch further, maybe 3 inches further, and then made a break across here so I could weld it in the jamb going on here. So it looks like it's got a factory weld to it and like it was done from the factory. It doesn't have like a seam going down in the middle of it, which would be stupid to do. And then, of course, you're able to make the door line perfect. When you make your own pieces of the puzzle, you can make them pretty perfect. It's got a drive shaft in it that's about 18 inches long. It was a 2500 series truck, so it's got the Chevy 350, the 4-speed overdrive, the big brakes, and it feels like it wants to pop wheelies when you take off it. So this was just a fun thing to do. You know, some guys like I and guys like you have that kind of vision that you always got to kind of do stuff. And this is just something I just thought I'd try and do. Lastly, let me show you my Mustang limousine. The Mustang limousine, I made this thing 30 years ago. I brought my twin boys home from the hospital in this thing after they were born. So this was literally their first car they sat in was a Mustang. And this thing came about because it was a $50 parts car I had bought, and I was parting out a lot of cars back then. And you know, as when you're a kid, you're dreaming about having, you know, a mansion and millions of dollars, being rich and famous, and having your own limousines. Well, when the rich and famous part wasn't quite coming along as quickly as I had hoped for, I figured I could still make my own limousine. So I made a Mustang limousine. And it's actually a Mustang 2 + 2 + 2. We made up our own emblem for this thing. Ford loved this. We displayed this in Dearborn in August, and we actually had this displayed right outside the Ford corporate headquarters. The doors open up suicide style, like the old Lincolns. Which, you know, if you're going to customize something, go for it, man. Do the whole thing. So we got the doors open up backwards, sunroof, that whole roof section here. I went to the junkyard, took a roof out of a 79 T-Bird, brought it back here, grafted it in, filled in the middle, you know, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's kind of just what you do. You wing it a little bit when you're doing these kind of things, and the end result is really second to none. I'm pretty proud of that piece. But let's move on. Let me show you my shop. Show you the different departments I got. This room here is where we do our assembly. I'll show you my body shop area, but after they're done with the body work and paint, they'll come over in this area here and they'll be assembled. We do a lot of fastbacks, of course a lot of convertibles. You know, a lot of what we do is coupe to convertibles. We cut a lot of roofs off and make the cars into convertibles. And we just don't make them like a roadster. You know, that's kind of cheating when a guy makes a roadster, meaning he just cuts the roof off of there and then just, okay, well, you don't have anything. If it rains, you're screwed. No, we do the whole package here. We make it so the top goes up using all Ford stuff. So if in the future the guy needs a convertible top, he just orders one for a 65 or 67 Mustang. This is a good example of one right here that we're finalizing here. This gentleman here, this is Dave Grundy. Dave's been with me for, how long you been with me, Dave?
32 years.
Dave's been with me for 32 years. He's been known to be the guy that gives out the bad news on things. I mean, he's pretty honest with the rest of the guys, and that's the way it needs to be. You got to have a lot of checks and balances, and you got to be honest with the rest of the guys, because we all look out for one another. But Dave does that, and Dave does that pretty well too. Sometimes he's not the friend around here during the day, but then the next day everybody gets over it. So good job, Dave. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Your bread and butter 66 convertible with a 6-cylinder in it, nothing special, but it's special to that person. You know, every one of these Mustangs and every one of these classic cars has its own story, and that's what this is all about. We'll get customers picking up their cars, and they got tears in their eyes, and it brings tears to my eyes when that kind of thing happens. We just have a lot of fun. Let me show you this area over here. This area over here is what I call Skid Row, meaning that these cars here are under the knife. You know, we're in the Midwest here. We're in Illinois. So we're getting a lot of salt. These cars went through the salt in the wintertime, and they just rotted out. Floor pans, frame rails, torque boxes, rear frames, inner rockers, quarter panels, wheel wells, aprons, you name it, these things are getting replaced on these cars. You know, I got to tell you, a lot of these shows I see on TV out of California, these guys are crying and whining about like a little hole in the floor, and they're like, nope, get us another car. I'm thinking, come on already. You know, work with what you got. Show a little bit of talent here. This is talent right here. When you can take something that's been almost rusted to the ground and bring it back up to nothing, or to something, from nothing to something. This is a talent here. Talk about a talented guy. Mike Dorsey. He's been with me for what? How long have you been with me, Mike?
36 years.
36 years this guy's been with me. I started my business. Within a couple years, he lived across the street as what? You were like 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18. He'd come across the street, maybe borrow a tool because he and his brothers were, fixing their cars. Before you know it, I hired him. He's been with me ever since. His buddies know him as Mustang Mike, right?
Yeah.
Mustang Mike,
my
yeah.
name now.
Yeah, that's his name. So pretty cool. Good job. Keep it up, Mike. This is my son, Preston. He's one of twins. The guy holding the camera, which I'll show you in a little bit, that's his twin brother, Cody. What's your role around here, Preston?
I do a little bit of anything. Hang a quarter panel or do some engine work on this old T-Bird here. It kind of depends on what day, but dabble a little bit of anything.
Yeah, and that's what he will do. He'll come in one morning and he'll knock out a fender apron or a quarter panel on a job, but at the end of the day, he's putting pistons in an engine back there. So, very talented guy. I like to think he had a good teacher. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Come on down over here. We got this 69 Shelby that was actually totaled. The original owner came out of a car show, and he was having a few too many and hit a couple of utility poles. But you know what? We can fix it. The insurance company totaled it, but we're fixing it for the guy. We're going to make another dream come true, which is part of what we do here. A lot of what we do also is we'll take these old cars and we'll put modern conveniences in them. You know, one thing that my wife, ladies are great. I mean, they know things and look at things from a different angle than guys. And my wife will be like, well, I like, the way these cars look, but they brake and steer like you're in an amusement park ride. So true it is. Us guys, we can put up with it, but the ladies, I don't blame you. So what we do is we retrofit them with modern air conditioning, modern brakes, modern steering, modern drivetrains and engines to make them more user-friendly. Because I like to call these old cars that just don't look old. I mean, you look at a 57 Chevy, most people will be like, wow, look at that old car. You see a 67 Mustang go by, wow, look at that cool car. They don't call them really old cars. So we're lucky to have this generation of cars to work on. But this gentleman over here, this is my oldest son, Christopher, Chris Jr. actually, and he's the one retrofitting the modern air conditioning on it, and this will also get the modern steering. So pretty much almost going to be, today's the day for this one.
Getting there, yeah.
All right. Yeah, he's been doing a great job on getting he's kind of our modern retro guy over there. Let me show you the body shop side. Over here, I have a few talented guys here that have been with me for quite a while, too. All my crew have been with me for a long time, and that's part of having a good team. You all can anticipate what the last guy or what the next guy is going to do, and that helps get the quality of a job done. Connor, how you doing, buddy? This is Connor. He's first class at what he does. He's hanging some quarter panels on this old 56 T-Bird. Not everything's Mustang around here. We got T-Birds, Cougars. We do some of the bigger Fords. I have a 70 Challenger TA 4-speed car from Mr. Norm's Grand Spalding Dodge. Dave, Kevin, you guys probably should recognize that name. I used to work for Grand Spalding. He had 3 dynos there. So every time one of these 70 Challengers would come through, part of the deal was you got a dyno sheet and they'd jet the carburetor for you. They'd try and upsell you on headers and things like that. But when this thing came across on eBay, I had to get it because I worked at Mr. Norm's and I just had to have a 4-speed TA. This is George over here. George is an excellent body man. He's my prime painter here. Actually, nobody paints better than George. I mean, George just is really second to none. George, he's got a kidney issue, so you're on dialysis, what, how many times a week, George?
4 times a week.
4 times a week. I was able to set him up with an apartment in this building here, so this way he could do what he needs to do, and he doesn't have to drive to work. He can just come down here and get to work. And he still puts in 50, 60 hours a week, this guy. What time do you get up in the morning?
1 in the morning.
1 in the morning, and dialysis until when?
6.
6 in the morning. And then still we'll work till 5. Unbelievable. This guy is just crazy, man. You keep up the good work.
Thanks.
I'm real proud of you.
Thanks.
Very proud of this guy here. So that's basically our body shop there. There's our TA Challenger back there, or I should say my TA Challenger back there. Red car, it's got all the great ingredients. Red car, black interior, 4-speed, TA, Mr. Norm. It don't get anything better than that. I got a few other goodies back there in my back room there that I have stashed away. 68 Super Cobra Jet, 69 Super Cobra Jet, KR Shelby. When you're in the car business, you get kind of cars like this. Sometimes my wife wishes I was in the appliance business. Maybe I would get new refrigerators and air conditioners, but you know, I still try and take care of her. She's a great lady. But anyways, let's walk back over here. I do want to introduce you to my camera guy. I've made all of these videos on YouTube. I have over 300 how-to videos that have helped people all over the world. We've had cars shipped here from Dubai. I mean, that's how far-reaching this company is. And on top of that, I've made my own reality show. Certainly not to the level of you guys, Operation Mustangs and more. But I think if you guys brought that up, you'd be pretty impressed with my drive up in the beginning there and the whole thing itself. I think we did a pretty damn good job of that. But anyways, let me introduce you to Cody, my number 4 son, and then Preston. Get all 3 boys together. You know, I'm one of the, not only am I lucky to be working on these great cars, but I'm lucky enough to be working with my 3 boys. I mean, this is a total family business. It doesn't get any more family than that. And we got a great heritage behind us, and that's just what drives us all. Right, guys?
Yeah, we love working for you.
All right, good to hear. Good answers, great answers. All right, that's about it. I probably took longer than the 5 or 15 minutes that you guys said to do it at, but you know what? Hey, I got a lot to say, and that's what happens. But you know what? I hope to hear from you soon, and thanks for the opportunity.